Hey, it's Amelia Page, and you are listening to the Gracecast. Can you believe it? We are back in 2021, and we have a full schedule of podcasts lined up this year. We've got so much good content coming your way. We'll be putting out 2 episodes a month and covering all kinds of topics like how to live on mission, how to deal with all kinds of conflict, how to live out your values, conversations on parenting. Basically, if you haven't subscribed already, you definitely want to do that. Let us know also if you're enjoying the podcast by leaving a review wherever you listen or sharing it on your socials. We would love to hear from you. So now, to kick off 2021, I'm having a conversation with Pastor Zach all about living on mission. Let's go ahead and jump in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Yes.
I'm feeling nervous, but we're excited to be back recording a podcast today. And we're recording this a good bit ahead of time. And we've been talking about how, I've been thinking like it's kind of funny. Like I feel like I'm speaking into the future. I'm speaking into 2021 from 2020. And a lot has happened this year. A lot of things have been crazy. And I am hoping and believing that when people hear this, it's less crazy. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it's more crazy. I don't know. We'll know when we get there, I guess. But we've been talking about how the topic of this month's podcast is living on mission. And we felt comfortable recording this so far ahead of time because the mission never changes.
Yep.
God doesn't change. What we're called to doesn't change. Our circumstances change. Our seasons change. All those things. But this remains the same. And Zach shared a verse this morning. You can go ahead and share that.
Well, Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that, to me, that's been even more profound, but even more comforting with the year of 2020. And I'm sure everything 2021 is going to hold for us. The fact that God doesn't change. Circumstances do.
Yes.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but there is certainty with Jesus and he doesn't change.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful promise.
Yeah. That has never been as encouraging as it has been in 2020.
Absolutely.
2020 was like a crazy year of change for the world. It was a crazy year of change for me personally. Even good changes it's just a lot. So that has been so comforting and so encouraging. And so today we are talking about living on mission, how to know the mission. And we were even talking about people listening to this in January and how all of us will be setting up intention for the year of how we want to live, the things we want to change, our goals. And this is a big thing. Everything I think should be revolving around this. So
absolutely,
let's go ahead and get into it. What's the mission, Zach? Yeah.
And so hopefully if you're listening to this and you are a part of Grace Fellowship Church, we try to keep this front and center as often as possible. But the mission of our church is to glorify God by fulfilling the Great Commission. And really we get that from the scriptures. We were created to give God glory with our life. And the way to give God glory is to do the Great Commission, which is the last words of Jesus. And we see those in Matthew 28, 18 through 20. Jesus is about to ascend to heaven and he has the 11 disciples in front of him. And he says one more thing to them. And that is in Matthew 28, 18 through 20 says, and Jesus came and said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. If the person who just rose from the dead 40 days ago says all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, what he's about to say next is going to be pretty important.
Yeah, important.
And so verses 19 through 20 is the Great Commission where Jesus says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. And so when we say the mission of the church and the mission of our lives is to glorify God by fulfilling the Great Commission, we want to live out what Jesus's last words were, which he just essentially said, go and make disciples of all nations.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how to practically do that in your context in 2021.
In 2021.
And it looks a little different than it did when Jesus first said that, but
absolutely,
principally it's the same.
Yeah.
So,
well, we talk a lot about discipleship in our church, and I want to make sure everybody knows what we mean by that. So when Jesus said, go make disciples, what did he mean? What did he mean? What is discipleship? What is a disciple? And we could easily go back and define it right when in the beginning, when Jesus was starting his public ministry, he was gathering the 12 disciples around him. In Matthew 4:19, Jesus said a common thing to them when he invited them or allowed them to come and be his disciple. He said, "Follow me and I will make you fishers of men." That was the same thing Jesus said, "Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." He says the same thing to us today. It's an invitation to follow him. And then there's a promise. If you follow me, I will make you into a fisher of men. And so really when we talk about the mission is to glorify God by fulfilling the Great Commission, and that is to make disciples. And then you say, well, what is a disciple? We could define it this way. A disciple is somebody who is committed to following Jesus. That's when he said, "Follow me." Committed to being changed by Jesus. That's when he said, "I will make you." And then committed to living on mission with Jesus. That's when he said, "Fishers of men, I'll make you fishers of men." And so that's what we mean by when we say, hey, we're going to glorify God by fulfilling the Great Commission. That's go and make disciples. What's a disciple? Somebody who's committed to following Jesus, committed to being changed by Jesus, and committed to living on mission with Jesus.
Yeah. I like, I think, is it Eugene Peterson or Patterson? I never can remember you. I always have to ask you. You don't remember?
It's got me confused. Peterson?
I think it is Peterson he wrote the paraphrase of the Bible, The Message, but he has a book called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And I love that when you think of in context of discipleship, that's really, it is a long obedience in the same direction. You are on the same path always. You're following Jesus and living by his commandments and spending time with him. And it's just doing the same thing for a long time. For a long time.
We say it a lot around here. Christianity is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
That's what discipleship is. It's playing the long game, not the short game.
Yes. So. Yeah.
Well, when you look at, I think what we want to accomplish here in this podcast is, as we kind of turn a corner here, what we want to finish by doing is explaining that definition of discipleship. Someone's committed to following Jesus, being changed by Jesus, living on mission with Jesus. We want to tackle those first two, committed to following Jesus and committed to being changed by Jesus. What is that? What does that look like? So if you just take that first one, a disciple is someone who's committed to following Jesus. What does that look like in somebody's life? And I would just start by saying salvation.
Yeah.
That's where it begins. And you can't follow Jesus unless you know him.
Right.
And so it begins with salvation. Amelia, what would be some other elements of what does it look like to follow Jesus?
Well, I think I was even reading yesterday about where Jesus saying, my followers, the people that love me will keep my commandments and those things. So I think in our flesh, we've been talking about this at church a lot lately, but in our flesh, that looks like a to-do list. But when you're following Jesus, it's more of a heart thing. Yeah. So the first thing he tells you is to be baptized, to follow him in believer's baptism. So that's a huge thing. That's the natural next step, but I think sometimes people put it at the bottom of the list when it's, the next thing to do. Being a part of his church, the church that he gave his life for. It is not a small thing. It is the thing. So being a part of a church and being in his word and praying and all those seemingly elementary things, but the little things are the big things.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. It's just a walk with him. I think he gave us, it does look different. I think Amelia's 100% right. It looks different in 2021 as it did in the early century when Jesus was with the 12, but the principles of what he did with them apply. And that is he walked with them. And that's what Jesus wants us to do with him today, is just walk with him. It's enjoy his presence. It's read the scriptures. It's pray. It's have a relationship. And obviously the core elements of salvation, baptism, joining his church. I mean, those are essential. If we're going to follow him, we're going to do the things that he wants us to do, as Amelia pointed out. So don't get hung up on, when I say a disciple is these three things: committed to following him, being changed by him, and living on mission with him. Don't get lost in all of that, thinking that it's some big thing that is hard to accomplish. Right. It really just starts by following Jesus. Yeah. If you picture it in your mind, it would be like Jesus reaching out his hand, and maybe you're just arm's length away, and he's just reaching out his hand saying, "Come follow me. Just come do life with me. Just enjoy your life with me.
Yeah.
And it's just taking him by the hand and you guys just walking through life.
And I think I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I've been reading a lot, doing a study about God's presence and thinking about when you're following Jesus, that is a daily decision that you're going to live on mission that day, that you're going to choose to walk with him, be in his presence. And then sometimes the things that he calls you to do in a day are hard. Like sometimes you don't feel equipped to do them, but when you are walking with Jesus and spending time in his presence, he will equip you for every single thing he asks you to do. His presence will equip you. And it's not about our adequacy at all, that his power shines in our weakness, like he says in his word. So
absolutely. That's a great word. So, so a disciple is someone committed to following Jesus. And those are the basic elements of what it looks like to follow him. And the second one is a disciple is someone committed to being changed by Jesus. Now, I'm going to say a word here that's a theological word, but I don't want to scare everybody.
Drop it. It's a good one.
It's a good one. This is the process of sanctification. Paul uses that terminology in the scriptures. And really, the easiest definition of it is the process of sanctification is the process of being changed into the image of Christ, into the likeness of Jesus. So obviously we were all created and then sin entered the world. We have a sin nature. But the moment we begin to follow Jesus and we're saved, we get a new nature in Christ. And now, while we're living on this planet, it's about becoming more and more like Christ. We're not perfect,
right?
But we're growing to become like him. That's what sanctification means. So Jesus has promised anybody that follows him that he will make you into a fisherman. He's going to change you. And so someone that's a disciple is committed to being changed by Jesus. They're opening up their life to grow and to change and to want to be more like him.
Yeah.
And so I think this is really where all of life kind of happens.
Yes.
A lot of people don't enjoy the process of change.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little painful.
Yeah. But so as I look at it, and Amelia, speak to this as well, but someone committed to being changed by Jesus really is committed first in an area of personal growth in their walk with God, because there is that, as we even kind of alluded to that in following him. There's got to be an element that somebody takes personal responsibility to say, I'm going to grow. I'm going to become more like Christ. It's on me. I'm going to do this. But then there's also the element of God wired us to do life with people. And I've even learned in my own life, and I actually preached about this a few weeks ago, I would like to think I'm somebody that's committed to personal growth, but I came into a period of my life, and I don't know if anybody else would relate to this, but I came into a period of my life where I felt like I was stagnant in my growth spiritually and I wasn't growing. It was kind of frustrating for me. And then I had somebody who loves me and cares about me point things out to me that were blind spots in my life that I didn't know. And that was really where a wall was broken down, I feel like, in my growth, and I began to grow. And I took a step back and realized how important people are to the growth process. And so if somebody's committed to being changed by Jesus, not only will you be committed to personal growth, but you'll also be committed to allowing other people hold you accountable and help you grow.
Yeah.
Anything you want to speak to that?
Yeah. I mean, doing life with people is not always easy. Yeah. People are, we're all sinners and we're all messy, and we start doing life together and it gets messier. And so it's a hard thing, but it is one of the most beautiful and rewarding things that you can do in your life. And it truly does make you better. That if you can surround yourself with other people who are committed to that same personal growth, to being more like Christ, how much better you can hold each other accountable and grow closer to Christ all the time, and to be sanctified in that way. It's like a speed boost on the sanctification process. Like,
have you been playing Crash Bandicoot?
Maybe, but that's all I had. That's all I had. It's a speed boost on your sanctification.
Boost. No, I agree 100%. And so if somebody's going to glorify God by fulfilling the Great Commission, then the understanding of that is, okay, I need to be a disciple first. And then I want to be a part of participating in making disciples. And then if somebody were to say, well, what does that look like? Well, it looks like someone who's committed to following Jesus, being changed by Jesus, and living on mission with Jesus. And I take personal responsibility in my life to follow him daily and be changed by him on a consistent basis And then that will lead to me living on mission with him. And then what I want to also do with my life is not just do that for myself, but I want to help someone else do that as well.
Yeah.
I want to introduce people to Jesus. I want to help them learn how to follow him. I want to help them learn how to grow in their walk with him. And that's how, at least the first 2 steps of what it looks like to glorifying God by fulfilling the Great Commission.
That's the most beautiful. I think everybody wants to feel like their life has purpose and has meaning, and that's it.
Yeah.
If someone can look at you and say, thank you for helping me grow in my walk with God. Thank you for introducing me to Jesus and helping me grow closer to him. That's what life's all about.
That's what it's all about. I think we better save the third step there, committed to living on mission with Jesus. And maybe we'll come back and do a whole episode on that.
Okay. So in 2 weeks, we're back talking about that.
Yep. 2 weeks, living on mission with Jesus.
I hope this conversation with Pastor Zach was a blessing and helpful to you. Make sure you're subscribed so that you're notified when that new episode drops in 2 weeks. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on our social media. And of course, we would love to have you join us for church in person and online. You can get all the info at our website, gracelives.com. That link will be listed in our show notes as well. Talk to you soon. Bye.